I talked a little bit about one of the most influential songs in hip hop history, Run DMC featuring Aerosmith Walk This Way, and how it kicked the doors open for hip hop moving into the future. That was 1986. So I think, like I said, with that video, it opened up a lot of eyes. It got a lot of people's, attention, and the powers that be went to MTV and said, "Hey, man, there's this new form of music, and I think it's going to be big. I think we should give it a chance." So, a year later, 1987 was the premiere of Yo MTV Raps in Europe, and the first um, guest on that show was Africa Bambaataa. But on the first US pilot, guess who the first hosts were?
The host?
Yeah.
The first host for
It's
MTV?
only right.
Not a, it wasn't Ed Lover?
Run DMC.
Oh, the first host. Really? They hosted the first.
Yeah. The first
Okay.
yeah,
I
I
don't
didn't mean
remember
like
that.
as but at the first show,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they hosted the first episode. So I think,
Wow.
yeah. So that was probably their reward for bringing attention
Mhm.
and kicking the door down. And so, the show was created by Ted Demme. It featured Fab Five Freddy, Ed Lover, Dr. Dre, T Money, Todd One, if you can remember those guys.
One, of course.
Came on weekdays and weekends. So I believe Eric B. and Rakim's Follow the Leader was the very first video shown on that show in the US. Some fun facts about Fab Five Freddy that I didn't know. When I was watching these shows, I'm just like, who's this guy? You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know too much about him. I just know he was, one hell of a host that I looked up to. But looking back,
A lot of
he
history.
was what's that?
A lot of history with Fat Five Freddy.
Yeah, absolutely. A graffiti artist in the 1970s. His crew was called the Fabulous Five. He pretty much bridged the gap between the downtown scene and the uptown rap scene. If you can remember, Blondie gave him a shout out on Rapture.
That's
And if you
right.
consider that a hip hop song, that was the first hip hop video to be shown on MTV.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
A fun fact,
Blondie is she's very well credited, man, like and
yeah,
respected in the hip hop culture.
right. So that was the first rap video to be shown on MTV. A fun fact about that video was Grandmaster Flash. He got a shout out in the video, and he was supposed to be behind the turntables. But guess who was behind the turntables?
That was Basquiat.
Absolutely right. You know your
Yeah,
history, sir.
that's right.
That's
That's right.
crazy.
I find listen, I just realized that maybe about 5 years ago.
Never too late to learn.
5 years ago.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah, yeah. But
How,
that goes to
how
show you how they had the scene though, right? How they were molding the scene. People like Fab Five Freddy, with the help of Blondie, and then you get somebody like a Basquiat, like and that's something like when you just asked me about Jimmy Spicer being, uh, like if he's mentioned enough or whatever. I feel it's the same thing with people like Fab Five Freddy, even though he's everywhere, but I don't think
right?
he's mentioned enough.
Nah, not at all. When you mention him, he's that guy from UMTV Raps, but it's much more than that.
Right.
Way much more than that. He also had a hand in Wild Style, created the film's original music, co-produced, and ended up in one of the leading roles. You can speak on that in a moment.
Mhm.
Um, in '81, he joined Futura 2000 with a graffiti-related art show called Beyond Worlds, and at that show, it contained their work as well as Keith Haring and Basquiat and others. So, I mean, they were immersed in that rich And I don't mean in I do kind of mean in value, but rich art scene with
Right, right.
those pioneer painters.
Hmm.
He has a song called "Change the Beat" in '82, which featured Fab rapping English and French on that joint.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. I'm assuming you heard it, right?
yeah, yeah. And in '88, he became MTV's first hip hop BJ. Later, he worked on producing New Jack City and directed Nas's One Love video. But let's go back to UMTV Raps. It was the highest rated show to ever air on MTV at that point.
Wow.
So I know you probably got a lot of memories of running home and
Oh
trying to
yeah.
catch, they were always up to date. It was almost like bragging rights to be able to catch that video and come back to school. And
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Shinehead's Chain Gang was the first video to be showed on the regular season. This moment really changed my life in a way that I didn't know at the time because I think it single-handedly kept me out of trouble, saved my life because instead of hanging out late on the weekends, I'm trying to catch Fab and the show late, because that came on Saturday nights, I believe.
Hmm.
And there was also a Friday show with Ed and Dre, but I was too busy trying to catch the video so I can go to school on Monday and ask if they seen, you seen that new deep cover, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So this moment changed my life. It changed hip hop in general. Now it's being seen on, would you say, the biggest platform at that time?
At, at that time, yes, yes. Because
Because I
you
think
had,
Video Music Box was on its heels.
I was just gonna say, you had Video Music Box, but it was a different type of, MTV took it to a bigger, I think, and broader audience than Video Music Box. So you got to remember too, Video Music Box early on, it was kind of hard to get on TV. Like you
Mm,
had to have your antenna, and sometimes depending on where you were, if your antenna wasn't picking up that signal right, you might not get Video Music Box.
right,
So, you know, MTV, I think they did, they definitely took it to a bigger and broader area. Uh, no, not taking anything away from Video Music Box, of course, still kicking.
right. The weekly show featured Ed Lover, who was part of the group No Face. Remember that? Dr. Dre became he was a DJ for the New York radio station, college station. With three DJs from that station, they became uh, Original Concept, and they had an album on Def Jam in '88. He also served as a Beastie Boys DJ at one point in time. And they teamed up for the weekly show, and their chemistry was also like no other. So, some of my favorite episodes. I don't know if you remember Wu-Tang Clan getting pissed at Ed Lover.
Damn, what happened there? I don't remember.
He was making fun. He was dressed up as a kung fu artist, and he was making fun
Yeah,
because
yeah,
they
yeah, yeah, yeah,
they took it real serious.
yeah. Oh man, see, but that was what was great about this show too, man. Is that the combination of Ed Lover and Dre, they were hilarious. They were
Right.
really funny, and they did, yeah, 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 yeah. They did certain things that it was yeah. That damn. See, now you're taking me back because I kind of forgot about a lot of
Oh
these
yeah,
episodes, man.
they were super mad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Some of my other favorite episodes, Tupac on the show. They had to cover his mouth because he was going off. You remember
Yeah,
that?
yeah, 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 yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
you, yeah, I think it had to do with Minister Society or the Hughes
So
brothers or some
it
type of
was something he
situation.
was going off about. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it was that he was going off about it or whatever, and they just at one point, I believe he just kind of came up from behind him and covered his mouth up. Like that's another two. Ah, man, yeah, I miss it. I miss
Yeah,
that.
Absolutely. Favorite episode, Fab Five getting high with Snoop. NWA on the flatbed going through Compton.
Yeah.
What else? Stas Effects in the sewer with Fab Five Freddy.
Yep.
The Down with the MTV OPP campaign in 1992.
Yeah. Yo, you don't
And
realize until you kind of go back, right? Like how, I mean, that was like an important time, and when it came, in hip hop, man,
yeah,
there was a lot of things that, you know, remember a little bit before that when you would hear about an artist or one of your favorite artists, you didn't get a chance to really see them that much.
right,
You know what I mean? And I think MTV was probably one of the ones that kind of helped you get a better glimpse of the artists that you like. Like I said,
right,
you could catch Video Music Box, you might see something here and there. But again, somebody like around that time, I remember I was living in the Dominican Republic, and there would have been no way for anybody out there to know how anybody looked or what was going on, what they were wearing. So yeah, MTV, man, kind of forgot how important MTV was when it came to that.
yeah, man.
Wow.
Unfortunately, another highlight. Do you remember the spring break in '92?
This 92 in particular.
Had Black Sheep, Cypress Hill, Nice and Smooth, Leaders of the New School.
Okay.
They did
Okay.
that scenario performance. It was
Yes.
crazy.
Yeah.
That was definitely a highlight. At their height, man, they were going 6 days a week.
Yeah. Damn, man, you really jogging my memory right now.
Yeah, it was really important, man.
The
Try
spring
to,
break was crazy too.
yeah,
They had the ones with Eminem,
right.
right? Eminem. I remember seeing
No.
no
Eminem wasn't out that time.
at the spring break. Or am I thinking of a
Oh,
different?
you're probably thinking of something
Am
spring
I?
break.
Yeah, am I confusing the timeline with the spring breaks? Because there was
Yeah,
who else
well,
was doing the
they may
spring?
have had a spring break, but MTV came to or Yo MTV Raps came to an end in '95.
So then it was probably just MTV then.
Or Yo, I think they may have rebooted and came up with Yo,
Because I remember
but
okay. So which was the one? And again, this is what we're doing the show for, right?
no
To
doubt
learn and remember. But so what was that series when? Remember when Biggie Smalls? I mean, I know again this is
the
after,
grind was it the grind?
but remember he was on
MTV's grind.
stage and Big Cap messed up and he threw the water bottle at him.
The records were jumping or something.
Right. But that wasn't
I
that
think
like
it might have just been their spring break thing.
okay.
I think they did run a spring break for a while, but I don't know if
Right.
it had any
It
attachment
wasn't
to
the Yo MTV. It wasn't Yo MTV Raps Spring Break.
right.
Okay, that's what it was. My fault.
No doubt, no doubt. Like I had to go back and remember,
Man, yeah. This is cool, man. I love this. This is why we're doing this, man.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, the show came to an end in 1995. Do you remember that cipher and that last show?
Everybody was there. KRS-One.
Did he have that hat
Man,
on?
yeah, I don't remember. That I don't remember. Are you gonna make me look up the video? I don't remember, but I know he was there. I believe Brand Nubian.
Meth and
Man,
Red,
Meth and Red.
Rakim,
Rakim was there.
Special Ed.
I think that was a sad day, man. That
Yeah.
was a sad day.
MC Search. I wasn't too inspired by his freestyle. He was kind of off that day. You don't remember Search?
Nah,
See, there you go.
nah.
Unmemorable.
I remember Red and Meth. I remember Brand New. I remember Rakim. I almost want to say Light.
Chub Rock.
Chub Rock. Yeah. No, I don't remember Search.
Yeah.
You remember his freestyle? I mean, you
It
remember that?
made me cringe, man. It made me cringe because he was just
Yeah.
off. I
Damn,
like
I gotta
French.
look at it. I gotta look that up.
Yeah, check it out. He was just off. Even Special Ed was kind of off. I think he might have been freestyling. And you know
Mm.
how Ed switched his style and got
Hmm.
kind of hardcore with Revelations.
Right.
He just wasn't the same Ed as what we like with The Mission and I
Gotcha.
Got It
Gotcha.
Made.
Right.
So
Right.
it
Right.
was
Right.
just kind of an off time for a few MCs transitioning. Because if you can remember, it was the hardcore era,
Mm-hmm.
93 to 95. It
With the
was all about Tim Boots and Bald Heads.
Yeah, probably even, well, I would say like even up to 98, right? Because you had like Nori and them came, around in 98.
Right, right.
Uh, but yeah. But so a lot of the guys from that we knew, a lot of the artists, I mean, that we knew coming, let's say from that mid 80s or whatever, were trying to, I guess, be relevant. And some of
Yeah,
them started, even MC Light. Remember MC Light came out with
yeah,
like
Roughneck.
Roughneck
Even
and
LL Cool J with 14 shots to the dome. Like, what are you
yeah,
talking
yeah, yeah,
about?
yeah. Yeah,
Everybody was,
that was a little
yeah,
weird period right there. I wasn't too crazy about it.
yeah.
I
It
was
was
in other words, the artists that came out that were doing it was cool. Like the artists that came out at the time and were doing
Onyx,
that, right?
Onyx,
Onyx, um, that
Grave
was cool.
Diggers.
But I mean,
If you remember,
hearing MC Light coming from Light as a Rock to
remember
Gotta
how
Get a Roughneck.
remember how UMC switched up?
Yeah, yeah. UMCs. Damn, that's right. UMCs too.
Yeah,
Yeah, not a good
it was
look.
just a lot of people had to adopt and try to
Mhm.
go hardcore, and it just wasn't, coming off
Nah,
too
it
right.
didn't work for too many.
Yeah, years later, 2018, the 30th anniversary of Yo at the Barclays. Did you attend that?
Yes.
Whoa,
Yes. Oh man, I didn't know if you were going there.
let us know.
Oh man. Rakim, oh KRS, and man, it was awesome. I actually went to that by myself. I did meet up with a couple of friends that were there already. Um, but that was amazing. That was really amazing. Who else was there? It was Rakim. There was
Looked like maybe Double X Posse.
Double X Posse. There was young black teenagers were in the
Ah,
house. They were there.
was it pretty
Uh,
flawless? Was it just song after song?
it
Just somebody
was.
do
It
their
was. It,
song and
it, it
then
was. Artists would come out. Big Daddy Kane was there. Um, an artist would come out. They would do their thing, and then like Ed Lover and Dr. Dre, they were kind of off to the side, and a couple of other, from UMTV Raps, and they would sort of do their thing in between, and then introduce someone, and then they would come out. But man, I gotta tell you though, KRS tore it down. I mean, it went like everybody else. Like Rakim came out and he was cool, you know.
he's always cool.
Yeah,
He's
it's like
cool.
Rakim style, you know what I mean? But man, by the time when KRS came out, the whole place, just went right to the front on their feet. Fat Joe was on stage, as the hype man, of course. Uh, yeah, that was great. That was. I have. You know what? If now that we're talking about that, I think what I'm gonna do is I might have a couple of video footage from that night. I might throw it up on the page.
Dope, dope, dope.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Damn, I
I
forgot
should have
about that.
went to that, man. That sounded like, it was right up my alley.
Oh, you would
Um,
have loved it. You would have loved it. That
yeah.
was really cool. I saw Pop Master Fable. Shout out to him. He was in attendance watching. Uh, yeah, yeah. It was a great night.
And I think to highlight MTV Raps, it made way for other shows such as Rap City. I can't remember when that debuted, but I'm sure it was right on the heels of UMTV Raps. It also gave
Big
you,
Tigger,
yeah, the
Basement.
mayor Chris Thomas, was that his name?
Chris, I know it was Chris. I'm not sure the last name.
Prince Dejour.
Prince Dejour.
Yeah,
Damn.
yeah,
There was a
man.
lot of yeah. Definitely a staple in hip hop, man. You gotta mention them when it comes to hip hop. They did their
Absolutely.
job, man. They definitely did their job.
Yeah.
Cool. So, am I up?
You're up, sir.
All right. So, my next highlight, I have a gentleman well, went by the name of Phase Two.
Mm,
Uh, Graph artists, like they used to say back then, they were just called writers. It wasn't really like graffiti, right? Stuff like that. They were writers. Um, and I believe some at some point, whether it was through media or something like that, he started calling it graffiti. And I think a lot of them just kind of rolled with it instead of correcting. And that's why, to this day, unfortunately, as much as you might not want to refer to it as graffiti, you sort of have to so that people understand what you're talking about. Um, but yeah, phase two, very important pioneer in the graph world, right? Came up pretty much with his style, which was the bubble letters. Some they call it softy was another word for that style of lettering. He is
mm-hmm.
also credited with probably being one of the first to incorporate arrows in their pieces. Born in the Bronx, right? Uh, so early on, we're talking about early 70s. This is when this is taking place, right? Early 70s. Now, he doesn't say that he was necessarily one of the first because, as he said in the interviews that I've watched, they were sort of doing it in Manhattan already.
Mm,
He's credited more with just with the style, especially in the Bronx. Um, the style of letters that he was using at the time, which many writers after that kind of took that style and then just sort of started giving it their own form to it, right? So uh, he also, which was kind of cool, is that he sort of embodied what we would like to say the whole culture of hip hop, meaning he was a writer, a b-boy. Uh, he was one, if I'm not mistaken, one of the co-founders, or he actually put the group together, the breakdance crew, the New York City Breakers, legendary breakdance crew. Um, him and a gentleman by the name of Michael Holman, who that's a whole highlight right there. I'm not going to get into it right now. Probably for the next episode, I will touch on who he is. Also very instrumental, but between them two, they sort of put together the New York City Breakers. Holman managed the New York City Breakers. So aside from being a pioneer in the graph world, just to tie into the gentleman you were talking about, Fab Five Freddy, for example, the movie Wild Style, the character that Fab Five Freddy played, they had Phase Two in mind. So Fab Five Freddy's character was sort of based on the life of Phase Two,
wow. Wow.
right? So he also had one. He was one of the first to start messing around with sculptures. So he had a what is it? Like about a 6 foot high sculpture that was made of brushed steel, and it was at the Jacob Javits Center. And it was there for years. And apparently, when they were remodeling or rechanging the Javits Center, they actually like knocked it down. They say by accident, but that got destroyed within that remodeling. Um, he also went on to be a consultant on the movie Beat Street. And I don't know if you can remember, there's a scene in Beat Street when they were in the subway station on the platform, and Lee was on, I believe it was his brother's shoulders, and he was like sort of coloring in something, and Raymond was like, "Yo, watch it! What are you doing? You're gonna mess that up." That's the phase two, and he was like, "Phase two, who is that?" And they kind of got into the history. So he was a consultant for that. Um, and I just wanted to read something because he said something that was pretty interesting in an interview that he did, and he said that when it came to graffiti, right, like as far as tagging and doing your pieces on trains and having your name all over the place, he had said that it was like the only significant vehicle to represent kids from urban areas, like to represent their existence, right?
Mm,
Meaning there wasn't that much stuff happening. There wasn't a lot of programs or anything going on, especially in the Bronx, right? Uh, and other neighborhoods throughout the boroughs. But it gave them a sense of identity. In other words, without having to be seen, their name would be known throughout the boroughs. You know what I mean? So it gave them a sense of pride, a sense of accomplishment, uh, and it made them, it kind of made them feel like they were somebody,
absolutely.
especially amongst their peers.
Right.
Um, he also became an art director for International Get Hit Times, which was the first magazine that covered aerosol art, and that was around 85, 86. Uh, so, he, again, a very important figure in hip hop, especially in the Graf world. Um, one of the guys, like I said, he was one of the first in many different things when it came to writing. Um, I don't know if you were familiar with him at all. If
Yeah,
you,
I definitely heard the name, but hearing his history, I'm definitely more. I got to know him a lot better hearing this story from yourself.
so also around 1982, he was very involved. There used to be this spot called the Roxy's, which was like a roller skating ring, but that also, what they started doing was bringing in a lot of hip hop, the scene of hip hop at that time. So you would go there, and at any given time, you would have breakers there, artists performing, DJs. So he was very involved with that scene, and he also see that was another thing I didn't mention. He also put out like two singles. One
Oh
was
wow!
called "The Beach Boy," which was a collaboration with a gentleman by the name of Barry Michael Cooper, who ended up, I don't know if you're familiar with that name, but that person later went on to write the script for New Jack City.
Mm,
And then
wow!
he also had a song, "The Roxy," that featured Bill Laswell um, and Grandmaster DXT. So like I said, he pretty much was like the embodiment of what we consider hip hop culture. And the same as Fab Five Freddy, he was very instrumental in fusing the different cultures, right?
Right,
So that's why I wanted to highlight phase two, and as you can see in these pictures, these are some of the early phase two pieces on the old subways. Then you got the movie Wild Style.
wow!
So
Classic.
yeah, another gentleman who was very instrumental, man, and I feel also doesn't get mentioned enough.
Right,
Um, then the other thing that's interesting, another reason why I wanted to sort of bring him up was the fact that within the last year, well, not the last year, within the last few years, there has been a lot of talk of whether Graf is really a part of hip hop culture or if it's its own thing on its, if it's just kind of its own culture. And one of the reasons why a lot of people bring that up is because of the fact that there were, especially early on, there were a lot of guys that were writers, but that weren't necessarily into anything that had to do with hip hop. They didn't listen to hip hop music. They weren't b-boy, they just did graph. And there were a lot, these kids came from like listening to rock or heavy metal or stuff like that, but they were nice at doing graffiti. So there's always that kind of that question about, is it really part of hip hop culture, or is it its own thing that then just kind of was embraced by hip hop culture? You know what I mean? And
right.
so
I think it probably can go both ways. It's definitely part of hip hop culture,
it's
but
definitely a part of it, right? But the
yeah,
thing, like I said, you have certain artists
right,
that came from that early time that kind of dispute it and say that it just stands on its own. Um,
right.
are there individuals who participate in it that are into hip hop? You know what I mean? Like, so it's like you said, I guess it depends from which eye you're looking at it from, right? And the
Yeah,
perspective.
Right.
But needless to say, whether it stands on its own or we see it as a group, as an element of hip hop, uh, it's an amazing art form, right? And you have people like Phase Two who ended up evolving and working on canvas, uh, and then you mentioned Basquiat, same thing, right? Just taking these art forms to other levels, making it a form of now where people can get paid for it, um, you know, in art galleries all over the world. And the funny thing that I thought about when I was looking up Phase Two is in New York, right? Um, there's still a big graph scene, and I feel that you have to be in it to really know about it, though. Where
Mm,
back in the early time, because of the fact that you had people writing on subways and on the wall left and right, it was in your face. You don't really have that now, right? You don't see it on the subways like you used to because you just can't do it like they did. Uh, so I feel that here, not that it's lost, but like I said, you have to know, you have to be in the scene to know where to go and see it and find it. Where like in other
right.
countries, for example, at any given time, and I'm sure you can attest to this, even being not even other countries, other states that you might go in, right? You've been to different places and taking pictures, and there's like this big mural. Um, more you see it more in other places than you do in New York. And don't get me wrong, it's not that we don't have it, but not like how we used to. You know what I mean?
Right.
And which I feel that because of that, kids might not be so intrigued in being a part of it or learning or keeping it
Right.
alive. You know what I mean? Uh,
Right.
but like
You
I said,
guys got you
mhm.
guys got harsher rules out there?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, yes. I mean, like if you see a mural somewhere, it's because for
They
one,
somebody commissioned it.
commissioned it. They got permission from, like, if it's on the side of a building, whoever owns the building, you got to get the permission. And I think they even might have to get, depending on where it is, you might have to go through the city as well, because now you're going to have something that, everybody's going to see. So there's a lot more of a process. It's not, you can't, before people would just go, you just throw it up there and that was that. Um, especially like on the subways, right? There was no getting permission to do a piece on the subway. You
Right.
just did it. Uh,
Right.
but yeah, yeah, yeah. Because if it wasn't, we would have, by now we would have had an MF Doom piece or something in Long Beach. You know what I mean? But
Right.
again, we have to find a spot, get the okay.
A
Um,
lot of red tape.
a lot of red tape. But phase two, man, very important. There's some interviews out there. There's actually some interviews with footage of him speaking. So, you can go on YouTube and find that and learn a little bit more about him. But yeah, so that's my second highlight. So I got Jimmy Spicer. And I just want to correct something, if I may, real quick,
Yeah.
or add on when I was talking about Jimmy Spicer's, the Bubble Bunch, right? That was produced by Russell Simmons and Larry Smith. And MC Light, Poor George sampled it. Busta Rhymes, like I said, the Busta Bus, Pete Nice and Daddy Rich, they actually sampled it on a song called Rap Bastard.
Mm,
So yeah, I just wanted to kind of correct that and add that to that.
no doubt. Thank you so much for sharing that about phase two. I had little knowledge, but now I have a lot more knowledge. And that's, like you said, what we're here for.